And welcome to the If They Can Do It podcast, the podcast that interviews absolutely normal people who do extraordinary things and wants you walking away thinking, hey, if they could do it, so can I. And so this episode is going to be a little bit different than normal. I'm not going to be interviewing anybody today. And part of that is it's holidays, people are busy and all of that kind of stuff. But another reason is because it's holidays and because it is busy, I think that there is a message that is extremely important that I didn't want to miss or not take advantage of a week that I didn't have anybody booked. And so we do have some great guests who are coming up, but this week with Thanksgiving that just happened and all of that, you know, a theme that I hear is that this year was smaller and that this year was definitely different. But I'm also hearing that, in just looking at Instagram and everything, that people are really grateful that they got to spend just some quiet time, maybe just feeding their immediate family when normally there would be chaos and all this kind of stuff going on. And I do hear a theme of gratefulness with people who are going through a smaller Thanksgiving. And so I wanted to take this time. This week on December 2nd, marks the 2-year anniversary of the passing of my grandfather. And if you listen to the podcast, you know how important he was to me. I bring up the lessons, you know, that he's taught me with a lot of the guests who are on the show. And you might even notice that this episode is a little bit more echoey. You might hear an echo in this room. And that's because I'm sitting right in front of a wall here that was my grandfather's last project that he was able to take on before his body just wouldn't let him work anymore. I'll talk more about that in just a little bit. But I wanted to, and I'm not sure if it's going to become a series. I'm not sure exactly what this whole thing is going to come. But I did want to just share some lessons from my grandfather that have blessed me and I'm believing are going to make an impact on your life too. And so this is going to be a little mini pod, but I know that it's going to be impactful to you. And so I guess to start, the number one lesson that my grandfather taught me, and it's kind of funny because he showed it to me in a really funny way and just like a really kind of poignant way. But it's to not hate your present. You know, some of us may be in a situation, in a relationship, maybe our weight is off the charts right now, way heavier than we've ever been, because maybe it's COVID, maybe, you know, Thanksgiving certainly puts on the pounds, or maybe it's the fact that we've been locked down, maybe you've lost your job, maybe all of that has happened and we're just not in a spot where we want to be. And maybe it's our fault, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. But my grandfather taught me something really powerful, and that is to not hate where you are. And that's because it is where you are. It's part of your story, and it doesn't have to be where you're going to end up, but you're there now. And I guess the biggest way that he showed it to me is my grandparents, they have rental properties. All over in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I'm a Wyoming boy, and all over Cheyenne on the south side there. Shout out to Southside Cheyenne. They have rental properties all around. And my grandfather would always tell me that there was one thing whenever a prospective renter would drive up to one of the properties to look at a house to see if it was something that they wanted to rent or if that they were interested in it, whenever they would pull up, my grandfather would notice one thing, and he would be very diligent about looking at this detail. And that would be when they drove up, he didn't care what kind of car it was, how old it was, the paint job on it, anything like that. He didn't care how much that car was worth, anything. He did not care about that. But he did notice if it was clean. He did notice that it was clean. And if it was messy, he wouldn't rent to them. But if it was clean, that told him something. Now, when it comes to a car and all of that kind of stuff, it's very easy to go, well, this is a $500 car. This is a $1,000 car. Who cares if it's messy or not, because it's not worth much, right? But the perspective that my grandfather took on it was, yeah, but no matter what it's worth, it's your car. It's what you have right now. And is your present something that you will take pride in and make sure that it's clean regardless of how much or how little that car was worth? You know, my grandpa coming up, you know, he didn't have a lot of money. He didn't have a lot, but you know what? What he did have, that was his. If it was a small house, that was his house. That was his family's house. And so he would provide for it. He would make sure that food was on the table. He would do everything to take pride in the fact that, you know, this may be a humble beginning, but that's my humble beginning. Regardless of if it's something that was created by, you know, if you guys are in the situation that you're in because of bad decisions, or, you know, maybe not. Maybe it's something that is out of your control. That is your story. This is your present, and take pride in the pieces that you have for your life, because there's nothing that you can do about the fact that your present is going to be part of your story for the rest of your life. And I guarantee you, a lot of people have hated their present so much that it's caused short-term change. Maybe they lost weight. Maybe, you know, they were able to, you know, save a little bit of money. Maybe they were able to make inroads in this or that or the other, whatever. But they made those changes because they hated the circumstance that they were in. They hated the circumstance that they were in. And what happens is, let's take weight loss, because this is something that I've have experience in. A lot of people yo-yo, go back up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Not because, oh, I just didn't want to work out anymore, or, oh, I just started eating what I shouldn't again. I mean, those were the end results, but it's not just because of that. What happens is, they were surprised that even when they lost all the weight, they still didn't like themselves. And they were in a new present, and they still hated their present. So if you are making big changes simply because you hate your present, hoping that a new place, the 15 pounds lighter, that's 50, whatever, hoping that that new place is going to somehow make you feel better about yourself and love yourself more, it's not. That balance, that change, and that pride is going to come from, you know what? When you are in debt, when you are overweight, when you are in a marriage or in a relationship or something that is not the way that you want it, do you see the value in it? Do you take pride in it? Because if you take pride in your body, you don't treat something that you take pride in poorly. You don't not go and move around because your body can move around. You don't just go throw money on frivolous things hoping that whatever you have will make you feel better, because afterwards it doesn't make you feel better. And so you go in this cycle again and spend the money that you had saved up. My grandfather was extremely wise when it came to that. When people came up and he would see a clean car, he said, you know what? If you can take pride in a $500 car and it's clean and that's your car, I'll rent to you. Because I know that when you come into the house, that is your house. And you will take pride in that. Man, I mean, it is just, it's an amazing lesson. It's an absolute amazing lesson. Because when you sit in your present, when you sit where you are and you just sit there hating it, you either change and learn that you still hate yourself when you're in a new present, or you just stew. And so my grandfather didn't just sit there and stew in his presence or in his present when, all he had was nothing and he had a family to provide for. He didn't do that. He took pride in the fact that he could go out and work and provide for his family and get a little something, a little house, a little place, a little car. They couldn't afford Halloween costumes to go buy Halloween costumes like the other kids. So my grandma made them. But you know what? That was their Halloween. All of that. And what happens is when you live that way, you never stop being grateful. If you're grateful with little, you'll be grateful with even more. And you won't feel entitled to it. You'll feel grateful and bless other people. And I think that my grandfather's way of living is a testament to that, because at his funeral, I'm sitting on the balcony and I'm looking out and there's like 300-400 people in a town in Wyoming filling a cathedral because they were impacted by my grandfather. Because anybody who was willing to steward their present well, he would give a shot or he would give advice to. He didn't care what you wanted to do. He would even give advice to my cousins like, hey, I don't care what you're passionate about. I don't care what you're passionate about at all, but go be the best at whatever you're passionate about. Go do the best that you can. That's the kind of person that he was. And so, I don't know if I'm going to do more of these, but this was just such a profound lesson that he taught me, and I wanted to do it in this room. You can hear my dogs. You can hear my dogs kind of wrestling around. Hey, Teely, come here. You can hear my dogs kind of wrestling around in the background and everything, but I think this message and this lesson is important enough to share, and I hope that it blesses you. If it does, go ahead, subscribe to the podcast, because there are a ton of stories that we can get lessons like this from. We have a lot of great people who I'm going to be interviewing coming up. It's just going to be amazing. Leave a review on what has blessed you, which story has blessed you, which one has been your favorite. But there's something different about this episode too, because I'm also right in front of this wall here, and you see there's this wood paneling on it, and it's a focused wall in our dining room. And I told you at the beginning of the podcast that this is something that my grandfather helped us do. And when we bought this house, it was crazy the amount of renovations that needed to get done. Absolutely insane. And the week before my grandfather came out, he went to the doctor. He knew what the diagnosis was going to be. He knew that it was going to come back that he had lung cancer. But he didn't hate his present, even then, even when he knew. and he could have been scared, and he could have been all of that stuff, and he probably was. You want to know what he did? When he knew that that was going to be the diagnosis, he got on a plane. Him and the family came down to Arizona, and we ripped this house to the studs. And he was the foreman. He was there helping us rip down walls and cutting lumber and all of that. But you want to know why? It's because he loved me, and he also said it's because his body could. And that as long as his body could, he'd be working, he'd be doing something. Because the body isn't going to last forever. And so don't hate your present. If you have a body that could go out and take a walk, go out and take a walk. If you have a body that can run and jump and do all that kind of stuff, do it. If you have a voice that can sing, sing. If you have hands that can draw or swing a hammer or whatever, do that. Because our bodies aren't going to be able to do that forever. Our minds may not be able to do what they do now forever. And yeah, that's scary, but then that also means that right now, this moment, your present is a gift to you. And that doesn't mean grind. It means grateful. And you operate from a place of gratefulness. Man, it's so... that's all I have. I could rant and rave and do all of that, but that's all I have. And I hope that this lesson touches you. I hope that this lesson is helpful to you. I know, and I'm believing that it is. And so, go into this holiday season just grateful, all right? All right, well, don't forget at the end of every episode, all of the normal mumbo jumbo. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to review all that kind of stuff, okay? Next week, we're going to be back with a guest. We have a wonderful guest. She's been a friend of mine for going on 8 years. Sarah Slayton's going to be on, and she has one of the biggest hearts of anybody I've ever met. So I'm really excited to introduce you guys to her. And so I will talk to you soon. And you know what? Today, go out and do something to make yourself proud, okay? Bye.